Welcome back to the JimBob Sports Jamboree with Vikings legend Chuck Foreman. You heard from him. He's down in Miami. And a man who's just back in the country, Tyler Ganz of TWS Remodeling. Of course, our lead sponsor. Appreciate him coming in. We also have Mark Jacobson of Tradehome Shoes also in the building. And a very special day, Jason Holmer of Lake Country Insurance Services.
How does that make you guys feel?
I guess you're the special one.
I guess. So you're special because you're not here all the time.
Yeah.
All right, let's dig into this first. Playoff time is here. Timberwolves are here. Wild are here. But grabbing the sports headline is the Minnesota Twins. And all these fans that have said from the start of the year, never going back, never watching a game, this team is garbage, the franchise is garbage. Well, as of this taping, Tyler, they are the best team in the American League.
I got to tell you, I'm one of those fans eating humble pie right now. I've been a season ticket holder there for, I think, almost a decade. I didn't go back this year because how frustrated I was at the end of the season last year. And, of course, here you go. We're supposed to be the worst team in baseball. I mean, it is so fun to watch. I've been able to watch a few games, and it's just it's a fun team again. Like, I think we made the right decision in leadership, right? We got someone else there that's really leading people instead of just being a pup on a string, I think is how you put it before. So it's fun to watch. I'm excited to see the rest of the season go through, but I think, as you mentioned too, it's kind of a Minnesota start hot and then always fail at the end. But I would love to see longevity out of these guys.
Jason, what are your thoughts of what you've seen thus far? Because I think it is, they're not going to be the best team in the American League, but there is some sustainability to what they're doing. Not driving out 4 home runs and putting 13 runs on the board every night, but the starting pitching to this point looks like these guys aren't overreaching.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. I'm as shocked as anybody. I predicted a horrible season for these guys. In fact, I saw a graphic somewhere where they had the
fanometer. Yes, the Athletic had it out there.
Optimism for the season, we were the lowest at like 4%. Thought we were going to make the playoffs. Cautiously optimistic, but here's the thing: I've seen this many, many times with the Twins, where we start really, really good. And everybody gets excited. And
13 wins in a row last year. The rally sausage.
Right. I mean, look,
Bombas.
I'm a seasoned Chicago Cubs fan. I've been through the ringer my whole life. Right. I'm an adopted Twins fan. A lot of my buddies are big Twins fans, and so I kind of live vicariously through them. And I root for the team. Not a huge fan of the ownership, but I don't know. I've got my buddy. You met my buddy Carrie's son Chuck.
Oh yeah,
Chuck is a huge Minnesota sports fan, and he was Jason. I told you, Jason. I told you. I said, Chuck, we see this. We have this same conversation every spring where you tell me, nope, they're going to the playoffs. They're going to the World Series, and I'm like, Chuck, it's 162 games. We have to sustain this for 162 games. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. But I sure hope I'm wrong.
Mark, you gotta dive into this, and you're one that lives and breathes these teams. Is ownership something that the fans will ever get over? I mean, Tom Pohlad is trying his best. He's out there. He's got $2 beers. He's got $2 hot dogs. He's doing the home opener over again because of the power outage to try to pay the people back. Where are you at?
I would say cautiously optimistic, but as far as the ownership group, I look at it, and right now what it's going to come down to is, yes, can we sustain it? That's part of it. But we all know, let's say they're holding it together and we get to the middle of the season. Are we going to be able to make those 1 or 2 or 3 moves where the ownership is actually going to have to put up some money and actually acquire some talent to put us over the top? Because when we've gotten into those situations in the past, instead of adding that extra piece, we usually end up selling off some stuff, and then we let the fans know that we're not interested in trying to make that next leap. They say they're going to do things differently, but again, I just think they haven't built up the trust. So yes, fans will come back if we win, but what's going to happen in the middle of the season when they really have to be able to pull off a couple of those trades and actually be able to go after talent instead of subtract from the team.
Yes, that's where Tom will win the fans over. If he steps up and signs somebody, because he got in 6 weeks before spring training started. That's basically when he took the team over. Free agency was picked over. There was nothing really there. Then he decides that Falvey isn't the right guy to run both the business side and the baseball side. So he talked it over with them. They decided that, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. He sticks Jeremy Zoll in there, Derek Shelton. Now, that was a decision that Falvey made. And Falvey's trades right now, everybody looked back at the trade deadline and like, oh my God, you threw everything away. Ryan Jeffers said it perfectly at the end of last year, right after the trade deadline. He says, you know what? We didn't win a World Series with this group, so you got to change it up.
Start over.
That's right. Let's see what we get.
Well, that makes sense as long as you are actually starting over and putting the resources into building it. Because I that's the part that I always struggle with the Twins ownership group is, to your point, they sell. We don't keep people long term. We usually don't, except for like hometown kids. We don't like to put up the money that we have to put up to keep stars here. We try to turn them into 3 or 4 prospects.
David Ortiz.
Yep, a ton of them. A ton. You go down the list. There's a whole lot of them, right? Ever since the World Series run. So, you're right. He'll win the fans back over if he goes out and does that. Again,
we should have money for that though, from that big trade, right? Like there should be some money available that
there's a ton of cash that they have now recouped
right
from selling off. They're what, 30, I don't even know what the number is, $30-40 million less than the payroll was a year ago.
Exactly.
So there is that aspect. There also is the aspect of the lockout that's coming next year. And so you have to figure out where you're going to be. And I think the Twins are looking at this as just a reset. This year, let's get through this new CBA. There's going to be a lockout. Everybody's saying they're going to try to install a salary cap. So let's see what the world looks like on the other side. And I know they won't say that publicly. They're smart enough now. They're not going to say, hey, we just won a playoff series. We're cutting the payroll by $30 million. Tom's brother didn't do quite the job there.
Well, we as lifetime fans can understand how to read between the lines here. That's what I felt at the end of last season. We're preparing to lose for 3 to 5 years. Deal with it, fan. That's why I didn't renew my season tickets. I'm not going to watch you lose. So, and here I am wrong.
Mark?
Yeah, you look at it and it's fun to watch. It's exciting. They pulled off some great trades last year. And again,
that's the key. I mean, everybody thought it was just a fire sale. Well, guess what? The Phoenix rises from the ashes. Now, I'm not saying Taj Bradley. Ooh. You like that?
Yeah,
like that one? That's got to be worth something. That's why you guys are all here. Taj Bradley and Mick Abel, they look like they're able to be real starters.
Yep.
And you throw that in with Joe Ryan, and think if you had Pablo Lopez,
right?
You'd have Simeon Woods Richardson down at St. Paul. And St. Paul is loaded with talent. And we've heard this how many thousands of times. Yeah. Look at the prospects we have. And then we watch them just flame out. So I'm not buying into Walker Jenkins is going to be the next Cal Ripken. We got to see where these guys go. But you look at those moves, Griffin Jacks for a starter, that's a great deal. Duran for another starter, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
And the bullpen, you don't even know who they are. They don't even know who they are. But they seem to get the job done. So you're right. The proof of the pudding will be at the trade deadline. If we sit there, with the thumb in the pudding and not pulling it out and getting anything, then yes, we're right where we are.
Also, what I think is going to be interesting is how does the pitching hold up over 162 games? So you've got a bunch of young guys who are doing much better than anybody expected. The book's not really out on them yet, right? So once the scouting gets done, once you start seeing these teams 2 or 3 times, are they still going to be as lights out as they are? If they are, it's going to be a fun postseason.
Yeah.
And can the arms hold up over a season? Do you have to deal with injuries on that? We were talking a little bit about how you like how the new manager is allowing them to go deeper, and I agree with that. But going, as a youth baseball coach, I can tell you, going all the way back to 9-10 years old, these kids are limited in pitches all the way through, so I don't know that they have the same arm strength when they get to the big leagues that they had back in the 70s and 80s.
Right. Well,
but-
they didn't know but threw as hard either.
It's a two-sided
Correct.
coin with that, right? Like, you're young enough where you should be able to survive the season, but are you creative enough to make your pitches unhittable all the way through? Because they're watching every single game, watching your pitches, right? So I love your point there.
Yeah, a lot of times you're talking about the third time through the lineup, right?
Yeah.
Well, now what about the third time you've pitched against this team?
Right.
Are you still as effective? And statistically speaking, you probably won't be. So how do you make up that? And but if they are, again, here's hoping. It could be really exciting.
Yep.
All right. Now, talk about excitement. You guys are now into decks with TWS
Oh,
Remodeling.
man. Yeah.
And I'm assuming with the weather warming up, people are starting to give you a few calls.
Yeah, decks are just they're going really, really good. We're happy to be a part of the Timber Tech family. It's a great product. I was just out in Idaho touring the factory, kind of seeing who they were, and man, that is a product that I can stand behind and sell. Lifetime warranties. I mean, just amazing stuff. It's not a deck; it's an outdoor living space, right? Like, this changes how you view your home. It's like, now you go outside. It's beautiful today. I want to be outside. I want to be on my deck grilling. Well, I mean, there's lights. The lights under the railing. Now the railings are made to hold a cocktail or a beer instead of this rounded top. Like, they've thought about everything, right? It's so cool to see some of these come together. This month we're running 25% off any of our products. So we have, just besides decks, we have windows, roofing, siding, bathrooms, and kitchens. So we have everything's 25% off. The one deal that is going to go away is the 24-month no payments, no interest financing. We're only going to run that through the end of this month. Book an appointment as soon as you can. Get in there. If you're going to finance these deals out, you're getting your tax refund. It's a perfect time of year to take advantage of the 24-month, no interest, no payments. It's beautiful. So those are the deals we're running. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, but appreciate you guys having me on the show.
All right, follow up on the 24 months. Do they just have to schedule with you, not have the work completed, right? They schedule it now, and then they can get that 2 years?
Yeah, because we're going to get that approval right then when we're there in your home. So you're going to know whether this job's going to go or not. So as long as we get you in before the end of the month, you're good to go.
All right, how do they find you guys?
TWSremodeling.com is the best way. Schedule online. You can pick your date and time. We'll be out there to help you out.
God, fantastic. Boom. There it is. Tyler, thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a break here on the JimBob Sports Jamboree with Vikings legend Chuck Foreman, the superstar Mike Morris. We'll talk NFL draft. We'll talk Minnesota Wild and whatever else pops up. Back after this. Welcome back to the JimBob Sports Jamboree with Vikings legend Chuck Foreman, the superstar Mike Morris, Jason Holmer of Lake Country Insurance Services with us today. We're going to talk Wild playoffs. That starts with the Dallas Stars. Great decision by the National Hockey League. This format works so wonderfully. Nothing better than knocking out the second or third best team in the opening round of the playoffs. Genius on their part. And also Mark Jacobson of Tradehome Shoes. And we're also going to get into the Vikings NFL draft and Timberwolves too. They get the Denver Nuggets. Mark, you look at what Tradehome Shoes is doing right now. The things that are going on at your stores, the support of Special Olympics coming up here. We're going to have a huge sports Olympics for the Special Olympic athletes coming to Minnesota here this summer, and you guys are right in the thick of it.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows that Minnesota gets to host the Special Olympics this year. Huge thing for the state of Minnesota. Tradehome Shoes is proud to be an official partner of the Special Olympics. This year, we're going to have 3,000 athletes from the Special Olympics that are going to get real fit scanned. So their feet are going to be scanned. And then they're getting shoes, they're getting insoles, they're getting socks, they're getting laces, they're getting all of that stuff supplied by Tradehome. And to be able to give them the full experience. And the cool part of it is, even at our stores now, we have a Special Olympics package where anybody could stop into any one of our stores. And there are shoes that if they buy a pair of those shoes, it actually directly donates to the Special Olympics.
Very cool.
So a shoe for a shoe, sock for a sock on this stuff. And it's a really cool way for Tradehome and all of our communities to be able to give back to such an important event. And the fact that Minnesota's hosting it and we're a Minnesota-based company, it's going to be an all-time cool experience to be able to do it.
All right. What's the best way to find a store? What's the best way to track them down?
Easiest way is to go to tradehome.com and you can see there's a store locator on there. Obviously, and you can Google us in most of the markets. It doesn't matter if you're in Bemidji, Minnesota, Duluth, Mankato. We've got over 140 locations across the country and continue to grow. But just go on and you can Google it and find it that way, or else go on the Tradehome locator.
Well, that's awesome the way you guys step up for everybody around, always giving back, which is pretty cool.
It's been so much fun. Business, we love to, obviously every company builds it off of business, but we've been in business for over 100 years now. And the communities that have supported us over the course of our 100 years in business, being able to give back locally is our whole goal, and to be able to support the communities that have supported us. And every one of our locations, whether or not it's Bemidji, Minnesota, or you name it, not only do we give back nationally on some of these larger events, but we also try to give back locally in every single one of those communities, because they're the reason why we're in business. You take good care of your customers, and then they help support you and keep you in business.
It's a great business model. I love it. All right. How about your Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets? They've seen each other 3 of the past 4 years. The Wolves banged up. Anthony Edwards not at 100%. Not Jaden McDaniels. He's not feeling wonderful. How do you see him dealing with the Joker this time around?
I think one of our things that we have an advantage of is with Bones and Asumu, the fact that they are speed guys and they can do the fast break. We've never been a fast breaking team in the past.
Nope.
But Denver struggles they want to slow the game down. They want to get it as slow as possible. And their transition defense isn't the greatest. So if we can push the ball and push the envelope as far as that, I think that's one area that gives us a big advantage. I like the pieces that the fact that Bones has stepped up. We were worried about our bench going into this year, but with the additions that we made, with Bones stepping into that role, I look at it as we have a deeper team. Yeah, we have Anthony Edwards. It's great. But the Joker is on a whole nother level. But I think if you look at it overall from a team standpoint, we have the depth on our team to be better than what they are. And then I think ultimately it's going to come down to defense too. Because when we play defense like we can stop anybody. I watched him play the Thunder this year, and it was one of those games where we crushed the Thunder because everybody was locked in. But if Ant wants to play defense, everybody else follows. And when he is on his game defensively, everybody feeds off of it, and we're hard to be beat. So I think it's going to be a classic series. My guess is it's going to go 6 or 7, and it's going to be one of those instant classics. It's a tough matchup, but we're not scared of playing the Nuggets.
No, and I think the best thing for the injury side of it for Edwards and McDaniels is the NBA spreads it out. You're not playing back-to-backs. You have a day, sometimes 2 days between games. They usually take a month to play the first round in the NBA. So that is a huge factor for the Wolves, that they can do the treatment on the off days, get those guys right. I think that'll be huge this time around. Do you feel Anthony Edwards is mature enough now to become that guy? Like Mark is saying, when he's locked in, everybody else locks in because they know the leader is paying attention and is watching you.
Yeah.
Do you see him now ready to make this step after 2 trips to the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, I think he's hungry. It's so fun having
Hungry like a wolf?
Maybe. He's on fire today. rising like a phoenix from the ashes, or hungry like a wolf. No, I think Ant, it's so fun having a guy like him in town. It's so easy to root for him. And I think he does bring up his teammates around him. I think this matchup, the Joker's going to get what he gets. Jamal Murray, though, is playing unbelievable basketball this year, and he has proven to be a problem in the past for us when he's on. Look at the game. Was it Christmas Day? He kind of killed us in that game. The Joker had an amazing game too.
He had 50 something in that one.
But Jamal Murray exploded in the second half of that game and really hurt us. I think it's one of the big keys for me in this series is going to be how Rudy Gobert plays, because if he sucks down to the basket the whole time, that's not going to work out for, guarding Jokic and with the screen and roll that they run. So I think, I don't know if it's going to be Rudy or Naz Reid that's going to have to fill that role more, but I think, it's a tough matchup, but I certainly think we can beat them. It's like you said, I don't think it goes less than 6 games. If it does, it's probably not good for us. But if we, you're spot on with the defense thing. I think if we play defense, we can hang with them. They don't like to play defense, not just transition defense. They don't like to play defense at all. So, if we could take advantage of that and stop them, then I think we've got a good chance to move on.
All right, Mark, other years coming into the playoffs, the Wolves were rolling. This year, they're not. This team has been so inconsistent with its effort. Why do you feel they can dial it in now all of a sudden? Because these other years, they've gone in and they were rolling and they rolled through the first 2 series. This time, it's been a clunky year for them. They just, whether had injury or not deciding to play defense for a week, whatever they did, they would lose to teams that are just not wanting to win. They still would somehow not win and finish it off.
It'll be interesting to see because some great teams in the past have had the ability to turn it on and turn it off. We haven't established ourselves, but there's times where we act like it, where we have the ability where we just don't care. And Ant has pretty much come out and said that. There's times where he just doesn't feel as motivated as other times. The question is, can they dial it up to that elite level that they know that they can play, but are they going to be able to do it? And are they going to be able to flip the switch? And I don't know, because they haven't played, but I look at it as they're well rested. They should be healthy hitting the playoff time. So I think as far as all of those things, they should be in good shape. But I also will say if it doesn't work out and we end up having a first-round exit, then next thing you know, there could be changes next year. Next thing you know,
Finch, I think, is walking a little bit of thin ice right here. I wouldn't say it's, going to collapse on him, but if they don't get out of this round, he is thankful that Mike Malone took that college job because that was Conley, his coach, when he was running Denver and when they were winning a world championship there. That was his guy. And then to see him go to North Carolina, I'm sure that Finch sent them some flowers and candy and a fine bottle of scotch for taking him off the market.
Well, it was controversial a couple years ago when Denver all of a sudden made a change in the middle of the season. And how could you get rid of your coach? It's worked out fairly well for them, and they've been playing very well. It might end up being the same case. Again, that's not what we hope for. We hope that Finch can put it together and get his team motivated. But that's your job, is to be able to get them to perform at the best at the most important time.
All right. Anything else to throw in?
Just agreeing.
Oh, very good.
That's all I got.
That's good.
Very agreeable.
Very agreeable. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back here, National Hockey League, NFL draft, there's still plenty to get to. It is a crazy time in Minnesota. And, of course, your Minnesota Twins are running away with baseball. Maybe they should break them up. Maybe they should help out the other teams. It's an unfair advantage we have with such deep pocket
Seems
owners.
like the Minnesota thing to do.
Yeah, help out the Dodgers a little bit, or teams like that.
Exactly.
That need the assistance.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, we'll take a break. Much more after this. You're listening to the JimBob Sports Jamboree presented by TWS Remodeling. Welcome back to the JimBob Sports Jamboree with Vikings legend Chuck Foreman. The superstar Mike Morris now graces us with his presence. Also, Mark Jacobson of Tradehome Shoes and Jason Holmer of Lake Country Insurance Services. The NFL Draft is less than a week away. Rob Brzezinski, a man who has never pulled the trigger for your Minnesota Vikings, has that button. Does he know what he's doing when he steps up to that podium?
I think if you were to ask him that question, he would honestly answer you, no. I'm going to be talking to a lot of people. We'll be coming to a conclusion of what we think the top 2 or 3 guys are at need. And at the time they fall to us in the draft, both scenarios, and we'll make the best selection as a group. I think that's what he'd tell you. And I really think that is the case, is that he will not take this and squander it. He'll definitely be taking in all the notes and all the breakdowns of each player that is worthwhile to draft at that point. And Rob is sharp. I mean, I've had him in the room with my agent for 9 years, and you know what? He's good at what he does.
He was smart man then because he signed you.
Well, I mean, go figure. I mean, they were looking for a Super Bowl. They had to get me signed. Okay, we're done. Okay, another dad joke. He's a good guy. I know this. He knows what he's talking about. He knows that if he has good people around him, they can come to a conclusion and make a draft count.
Who has his ear the most, do you feel? Brian Flores or Kevin O'Connell?
That's a good question. That is a loaded question, by the way.
Thank you.
Both of those two guys together, if they sat down with both of them, they'd have a decent amount of information for what they should be doing. The respect factor might go to Flores. And I don't know. For me, it does.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it does. I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question, but I would have the input from Flores in so many ways. I really mean that. I mean, I think we have two head coaches on this team, but O'Connell, I don't know him that well. I don't know either guy that well, but O'Connell seems to be smoke and mirrors. Like he's just a lot of smoke and mirrors. He's good in front of the microphone, but I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So it's questionable for me. That's just me.
Yeah. You know what? When you go to a dealership, a lot of times it's smoke and mirrors. But I think you know a dealership that lays it on the table.
I do.
And gets you set up the right way.
I really do. I mean, you just put the fan on and blow all the smoke out, and the mirrors can be replaced. If you go to Dodge of Burnsville, okay, go to Dodge of Burnsville if you're looking for a truck or a car, new or used. They've got inventory beyond belief. So you'll probably find it that day on the lot. You know, the color you wanted, the kind of truck, quarter ton, half ton, whatever. They've got it there on the lot. And they are the king of Rams. So if you want to find the best deal in town, that's also the way to do it because they work in volume. Okay? After you buy a truck, new or used, their service department is second to none. So get on down there. It's 35W and Cliff Road in Burnsville. Coincidentally, just like the sticker says, Dodge of Burnsville. They're actually in Burnsville. Okay? Everyone get that? That's funny. So you head on down there and do it that way. You'll be happy that you did. Tell them the superstar Mike Morris sent you.
All right. And then people trying to get themselves drafted, trying to get themselves scholarships, trying to have a good next football season. Summer is here. That means it's time to start looking to build your game on your own. And there's a lot of options out there, but not so much for guys that live in West Central Minnesota.
I was just going to say, I bet you almost made a huge mistake by saying there are options. There aren't that many options for the kids up in the rural areas because everything down here in the Twin Cities is locked up by this time every year for the summer. So it makes it really difficult for them to find a way to get into camp if they want to join a good clinic. So Kevin Tafe, a good friend of the show and a good sponsor of the show, has come aboard and is setting up these clinics and these football camps with Viking players, but most retired, some active, but mostly of the retired sort that go up there and help him with his football clinic each summer. So it was in the Alexandria area last year at Morris University. Very proud of that school. And I mean, I forget when I actually founded that institution. They said you can't found it because you didn't graduate. So you can't even create one if you don't have a degree. Anyway, who cares what they say? Get up there because if you want your kids to get a really good clinic going under some really good tutelage, this would be the one. Kevin Tafe has the one coming up. And I'll let you know as we get closer here. We'll nail down some dates for you. That's the place to send your kid. They also have a boat ride, and they've got fishing and golf for the parents that come up for a couple of days to have their kids in that clinic. So more on that later. But thank you to Kevin Tafe.
All right. Mark, what do you sense going into this draft? Where are you feeling? Viking fans always worry that we're not going to get this right. Star was talking about we have, a lot of people with a say, but do you think the Vikings get this right? Do you see them making a move? Where do you think this group is headed?
Well, to his point, I don't think we could do any worse than what we have the past couple of years. Obviously,
that's true.
Kwesi, I'll give him credit. he was the gambler, and he wasn't afraid to make big calls, and he did. Some of the trades we question. Obviously, we gave up a Pro Bowl safety to move back twice and ended up getting Lewis Seen, who was a complete bust. There was a number of those moves, even moving up to get JJ when we did. All of those things, he gambled, and if you're right, great. But when you're wrong, you end up losing your job. Now, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think Rob is going to be that aggressive because I don't think Rob has that gambler in him, and he's probably going to play it a little bit more conservative. The question comes down to who has his ear. And I still have to think, even though I probably trust Brian Flores, I think he has earned that. And not that I don't trust Kevin O'Connell, but I think Kevin's got his ear. I just look at it and I go, when you take a look at it, I don't think he was really sold on I don't think he was really sold on JJ. I think there was issues there at the top inside, and I think he wants more control. He wants more power. So I think when it comes down to the strings, when push comes to shove, I think he's going to end up being the one that has more say inside of that room. So that's why it leads me to believe sometimes when I look at who we're going to be drafting, even though I think, and maybe we'll talk about it more later, but we might go safety or we might go a variety of ways. It comes back to if we end up drafting a tight end out of Oregon in the first round, I can tell you who had more say in that decision, being able to pull that forward. If we end up going safety in the first round, well, then maybe Flores has a little bit more to do with it. But I'll be interested to see what our pick comes down to in that first round.
Star?
I really think that it's number one, a really good question as to who he respects the most, that being Rob Brzezinski, whether it's O'Connell or Flores. And I think Brian Flores carries a lot of weight right now. I really do. And I think they probably invested a lot of money in Flores to keep him here as defensive coordinator instead of going off and being a head coach somewhere. So they put their money up to have his input and, of course, to have his defense and him calling the shots. But O'Connell's still in charge. He still wears the tag of head coach. He's got a lot of wins underneath his his fairly new career as a head coach, and he's won. He's managed to win, but it's been funny the way it's happened. I will say that it's some of the ways that we've won games and found ways to win. Good teams find ways to win games. They do. But it's just been winning regular season games and one and done in the playoffs, and that is also, I think, a sign of a weakness at the head coaching spot when you can't advance in the playoffs. With as much team as we've had before here in the past, to not go any further, and not even close in some of those games. The first round playoff games that we've had are just dismal. So 14-3 teams are supposed to do much better than that.
That is true.
Yeah. So I don't know who he's going to listen to. I think it'll be more executive, and probably will come down to them letting O'Connell take the credit for it as the head of the organization. But I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
Good question.
All right, we got to switch Wild. It's starting. Dallas. Is this the year the Wild finally get out of the first round? 9 straight one and dones.
Well, thanks to the NHL and their awesome seeding system, I'm not hugely confident. I think Dallas is a really, really tough matchup for us. Now, if they don't have Miro Heiskanen and Rupe Hintz, it gets a little bit better. I think the most interesting thing about this series, though, there'll be 2 things that I find really interesting. Number one is, how does our regular season roster translate to playoff hockey now? Because we went out and got Quinn Hughes. I think we're still a little small on the defensive side, but that's kind of where
3 of them are pretty small.
Where hockey's going. But can you get through the playoffs like that? Because in the past, when we've had great regular seasons, we get to the playoffs and our undersized defensemen kind of get exposed in that more physical game, where the refs kind of swallow the whistles a little bit. And so that'll be interesting. The second thing for me, and I think the key to not just this series, but the entire Stanley Cup playoffs or the Wild, is the goaltending, as it always is in hockey, right? But I mean, who are they going to go with primarily? And in my opinion, I think they should go with Jesper Wallstedt.
Mm-hmm.
I love Gus. I'm on the Gus bus. But at the end of the day, right now, Jesper Wallstedt is playing better. He put, quietly, I've heard some takes on this, but I think, it was a really smart move by John Hines to put them both out in front of basically a minor league hockey team the last 2 games.
Yep, the Iowa Wild.
See who, when you have to be the guy, when you have to make the saves, who's going to play better. And really, Gus played against the weaker team in the St. Louis Blues. Anaheim's in the playoffs. St. Louis isn't.
And
Anaheim
they were playing
also,
for positioning too. The Ducks had something to play for.
The Ducks
that
had
night.
something to play for, and they're one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and they get more shots than anybody in the league. So Wallstedt had the tougher matchup and played much, much better. I really, really hope that they go Wallstedt. They're both going to get a chance to play, obviously, but I think that's really going to be the headline for the series is how the goaltending holds up for the Wild, because start of the season it looked like we have the best goaltending tandem in the league, and recently it's been a little shaky. So and the thing with Wallstedt, I'm so glad we didn't trade him, because you and I have talked about this before, but he's 22. Goaltenders start hitting their prime at 27, 28 into their mid 30s. He's 4 or 5 years away from hitting his prime, and he's already performing the way that he is. He's one of the top shutout guys in the league. I hope we don't trade him in the offseason as well, but I think that's going to be kind of the headline. And if they can get past Dallas, I think we match up better with Colorado. Not that Colorado's
that won't be easy
either.
No.
But again, like we were talking before the show, you've got 3 of the top 4 teams in the league, and they have to play each other in the first 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup. I don't know what the NHL's thinking there, because you're knocking your best teams out in the first couple rounds. Any other path to the Cup is easier than the way the Wild have to go, which is just a typical Minnesota sports league. But
Correct. All right, where can people get a hold of you to figure out the world of insurance these days?
They can call our office at 612-285-3113, or they can go to lcisagency.com. And one of our insurance specialists can help out with whatever your insurance needs, assessing. Even if you just want to take a look at your current policies and say, hey, do I have the right kind of coverage? We tell a lot of people you got great coverage and a great price. Keep us in mind for the future. That happens. But, most of the time, unfortunately, we see a lot of holes that need to be filled and a lot of things that people aren't doing. And, for the people who, just real quickly, who have dealt with the hail and the tornadoes we just got,
right?
Call your agent first. Even if it's not us, call your agent first before the person who knocks on your door convinces you to start filing claims. As you file that homeowner's claim, it stays on your record even if they don't pay out. It shows up as a filed claim, even if there's 0 payout. So call your agent first. If you have a good agent, they probably have a contractor. We've got a guy sitting in the room here earlier that would probably be more than happy to go out and take a look at your roof and make sure that there is damage before you file that claim, and kind of lock yourself in before you can't move your policies around and be agile with your rates.
See, that's why you deal with Lake Country Insurance Services. They're looking out for you, not just themselves. Because if they make you whole, then you're going to stay around. That's how to build a business.
And there's nothing worse than when somebody has a claim and if we didn't do your policy right, that's the worst thing in the world. It's the worst feeling in the world. And thankfully, we haven't had to deal with that, but we're very thorough with that, and we'll be very honest. If you need to change things around, we'll tell you need to change it. You might not want to do it, and that's your choice. We hear that a lot, but we're not gonna issue policies just to sell something. We're gonna issue policies that actually cover people and assess what you need covered.
All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.